Breaking news: Tong Liya's triumphant return to the industry after giving birth, a comeback that left China breathless. For over a year, the entertainment world had been asking the same question: where is Tong Liya? The beloved actress, known for her dazzling smile, magnetic screen presence, and roles that defined a generation, had vanished from the public eye at the height of her career. Rumors swirled. Was she quietly retired? On a sabbatical? Or simply done with the spotlight? Now the truth has emerged in the most cinematic way possible. Tong Liya wasn't gone. She was living her most private, transformative chapter, motherhood. And with her first public appearance since giving birth, she's back, fiercer and more captivating than ever. A year of silence that hid a storm of change. Tong Liya's last major public event had been the Shanghai International Film Festival in mid-2024, where she appeared in a golden gown that shimmered like sunlight, smiling for cameras but evading interviews. Soon after, she vanished. No social media updates, no fan sightings, no new projects announced. For months, speculation ran wild. Tabloids guessed she had gone abroad. Some thought she was working on a secret project. Few guessed the truth: she was pregnant, quietly preparing for a new life far from the relentless pace of the industry. According to a close friend, she wanted a year of peace. No media. No rumors. Just family. She didn't want her pregnancy to become public property. A hidden birth in the mountains. In January 2025, while snow dusted the mountains of Xinjiang, Tong Liya welcomed her first child, a baby boy, in a secluded, luxury maternity clinic overlooking a frozen lake. The birth was attended only by her partner, a small medical team, and her mother. The scene, as described by one nurse who signed a confidentiality agreement but later spoke anonymously, was straight out of a film. She was calm, strong, and beautiful even in that moment. After the baby was born, she just held him against her chest, crying silently. The room was so quiet, all you could hear was the wind outside and the baby's tiny breaths. For months afterward, she stayed in the mountains, healing, learning to be a mother, and, unbeknownst to the public, plotting her return. The first hint, a whisper at a private dinner. The first crack in her silence came in May 2025, when she was spotted at an exclusive Beijing charity dinner. No official photos were released, but one grainy phone picture leaked online: a woman in a black silk cheongsam, her hair in a loose bun, laughing with several top directors. The internet caught fire. Fans zoomed in on the picture, analyzing her smile, her posture, even the shape of her jawline. "It's her," they insisted. "Tong Liya is back." But she gave no confirmation, not yet. The grand return, a red carpet that stopped traffic. On the night of August 10, 2025, the Beijing International Film Awards red carpet was already buzzing with energy when the black Maybach rolled up. For several seconds, no one knew who was inside. Then the door opened. Out stepped Tong Liya, not in the sweet, girl-next-door style that first made her famous, but in a custom crimson Valentino gown with a plunging neckline, paired with diamond drop earrings and bold red lips. She radiated confidence, power, and a new kind of allure, the kind that only comes from transformation. The crowd erupted. Paparazzi screamed her name. Fans pushed against barricades. Even other celebrities turned to stare. As she walked the carpet, she paused for a moment, turning her face toward the cameras. That smile, the same one that had once graced 100 billboards, had returned. But now it carried a mystery. The interview that melted the internet. Minutes later, on the event's live broadcast, she confirmed what no one had dared to guess aloud. Interviewer: "Yeah, you look incredible tonight. The fans have missed you. Where have you been this past year?" Tong Liya, smiling softly: "I was bringing someone new into this world." Interviewer: "Do you mean?" Tong Liya: "I'm a mother now." The crowd gasped. On Weibo, within 5 minutes, #TongLiyaBaby trended to 1.8 billion views. She went on to speak with rare candor about her time away. "It was the most beautiful year of my life. I wanted to experience every moment without distraction, the late nights, the quiet mornings, the first time he held my finger. But acting is in my blood. I knew I would come back, and I wanted to return stronger than ever." Behind the scenes of her comeback. Her comeback wasn't impulsive, it was calculated artistry. For months, she worked with a private trainer to regain her physical strength, doing everything from yoga to martial arts. She studied scripts in between feeding schedules, rejecting over 30 offers before choosing her first post-baby project, a female-led historical epic set in the Tang dynasty, where she plays a warrior queen torn between love and duty. The director of the film, Chen Kai, revealed, When she stepped on set for the first time after her break, the entire crew froze. She hadn't lost a single ounce of her presence. If anything, she was more commanding. Motherhood gave her a depth I've never seen before. A private moment that proved she was ready. A week before the red carpet, during a costume fitting for her new film, an assistant accidentally walked in on Tong Liya holding her baby backstage. She was in full Tang era armor, cradling him while humming softly. He reached for her earring, giggling. The assistant swore it was the most beautiful image I've ever seen, a queen and a mother at the same time. The industry's reaction. Producers, brands, and fellow actors have flooded her with offers. Major luxury houses are reportedly fighting for her as their new brand ambassador, citing her rare combination of elegance, maturity, and modern relevance. Actress Nini posted, "She disappeared to create life. Now she's here to create art again. Welcome back, sister." Fan response, from surprise to celebration. Some fans admitted they were shocked, not by her return, but by her ability to keep her pregnancy and birth private in such a paparazzi-heavy industry. Others celebrated her as a role model for balancing personal happiness and professional ambition. One viral comment read, "Tong Liya didn't just return. She evolved. This is what strength looks like." What's next for Tong Liya? Beyond her historical epic, sources say she's also in talks for a Netflix co-production and a modern romantic drama alongside one of Asia's biggest male stars. There's even speculation she may direct her own film in 2026, a project inspired by her journey into motherhood. When asked directly if she would ever let her son appear publicly, she smiled and replied, "He's my greatest role yet, but his story is his own. Mine is just getting a new chapter." Final scene. As the Beijing International Film Awards drew to a close that night, Tong Liya stood on stage to present the final award. Under the glittering lights, in front of an audience that had waited more than a year to see her, she looked every bit the star she had always been, and something more. Mother, fighter, queen. And as she stepped off stage, the cameras caught her glancing toward the far end of the auditorium, where, in a private box, a small figure sat on someone's lap, clapping wildly. Xinjiang, winter 2024 to summer 2025. While the rest of the world wondered where Tong Liya had disappeared, the actress was living a life so far removed from the glamour of Beijing that it could have been another planet. Far from red carpets and flashing cameras, she chose the snow-covered mountains of her home province, Xinjiang, to shelter her most intimate journey, carrying her first child. What follows is the detailed, cinematic retelling of that year, the one that shaped her into the woman who stunned the world upon her return. The decision to vanish. It began in late August 2024, when Tong Liya quietly withdrew from 3 scheduled projects, citing health reasons. Few suspected the truth. She was already 2 months pregnant. One of her closest friends revealed. She didn't want the city. She didn't want the noise. She wanted to hear her own heartbeat, and the heartbeat of her child, without the world's commentary. She packed her essentials into 2 large trunks, soft cashmere sweaters, notebooks, a small projector for watching films, and an old film camera she had owned since her acting school days. Then, with her mother at her side, she boarded a quiet midnight train bound for Yili, Xinjiang, the hidden villa by the frozen lake. Her refuge was a secluded lakeside villa, owned by an old family friend, surrounded by pine trees and mountains so high they vanished into the clouds. The lake froze in winter, turning silver under the moonlight. The villa had only 2 bedrooms, a wood-burning fireplace, and floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out at the endless snow. It became her sanctuary. Each morning, she'd open the windows despite the biting cold, letting the mountain air fill the rooms. She'd wrap herself in a wool blanket and sip warm goat's milk tea, one hand on her growing belly. A life reduced to the essentials. Gone were the photo shoots, the endless scripts, the styling sessions. Her days became simple. A morning walks along the frozen lake, her boots crunching softly against the snow. A handwritten letters to friends, most of which she never mailed. A reading aloud to her unborn child, everything from Tang poetry to old movie scripts. Her phone was switched off most days. She kept a small journal, writing entries that shifted from poetic to deeply vulnerable. In one, she wrote, "Fame is a room full of mirrors. Here, I've smashed them all. I am learning who I am without a reflection." The visit no one knew about. In November 2024, when the snow had piled waist-high, she received a rare visitor, a famous director she had worked with years before. He brought her fresh fruit from Beijing and a USB drive. On it were films he thought she should watch, stories of mothers, warriors, and women caught between worlds. The two spoke by the fireplace until dawn. At one point, he asked why she had chosen to hide. She answered simply, "Because the most beautiful things grow in the dark before they bloom." The birth, a scene out of a poem. January 2025 arrived with a snowstorm that lasted 3 days. When her labor began, the winds howled so fiercely that the road to the nearest hospital was impassable. Luckily, the villa was only a short walk from a private maternity clinic run by a retired obstetrician who had delivered dozens of babies in the region. The delivery room had soft yellow lighting and the faint scent of lavender. She labored quietly, gripping her mother's hand, until the first cry broke the air. A nurse later said, when they placed him on her chest, she whispered something to him in Yugur. We don't know what it was, but she smiled through tears, and we all cried too. The months after, learning to be two people. The early weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and quiet joy. Her mornings were filled with the rustle of swaddling cloths and the steady rhythm of lullabies. She learned to cook simple, nourishing meals, steaming lamb dumplings, bowls of millet porridge. She discovered the strange magic of motherhood, the way time seemed to stretch and vanish all at once. At night, she'd sit by the window with her son sleeping against her chest, watching the moon cast silver over the lake. She often thought of Beijing, but felt no pull to return yet. The turning point, a mirror and a script. In April 2025, as the ice melted and the first green shoots appeared along the lakeshore, she received a package. Inside was a new film script from Chen Kai, a director she deeply respected. The role was of a Tang dynasty warrior queen, a woman torn between the safety of her child and the duty to lead her people into battle. Tong Liya read the entire script in one sitting. By the final page, she was in tears. She went to the bathroom, looked into the mirror for the first time in weeks, and saw a new face staring back, softer in some ways, but sharper in others. I realized, she later said, that I didn't have to choose between being a mother and being an actress. I could be both, and I could be better at both because of the other. Preparation for the return. From that moment, she began to prepare. She walked longer distances each morning, sometimes carrying her son in a sling. She practiced lines while rocking him to sleep. She meditated, trained lightly with resistance bands, and returned to yoga. By summer, she was ready. Her mother took her son for a day so she could travel to Uremi, where she met with the director and signed on for the role that would mark her return. The farewell to the mountains. In July 2025, she stood by the lake for the last time that year. The water was clear now, reflecting the endless blue sky. Her son, now 6 months old, gripped her finger and babbled happily. She whispered to him, "This is where you began. This is where I learned who I am. One day, I'll bring you back here to show you where your story started." With that, she boarded the train to Beijing, and straight into the public eye once again. Epilogue: Why the silence mattered. Looking back now, it's clear that the year in the mountains wasn't an escape, it was an act of creation, as deliberate and necessary as any role she had ever prepared for. She returned to the industry not as the same Tong Liya who left, but as a woman transformed by the quiet, by the snow, and by the first breath of her child.